future scientists. I'm your science teacher, Ma'am Leslie Santillan Landingin, always reminding you to love life and to love science.
We're on the third quarter, Module 4, Factors Affecting the Climate of an Area. For this day, we will focus on the first two factors affecting the climate, namely latitude and proximity to large bodies of water. Remember our learning objectives. Identify the different factors affecting the climate of an area and explain how these factors affect the climate of an area. We know that climate is the cumulative patterns of weather in a particular place over time. It is the weather of a place averaged over a period of time over 30 years. Climate information includes the statistical weather information that tells us about the normal weather as well as the range of weather extremes for a location. So what are the factors affecting the climate of an area? Let's find out and let's discover this together. In grade 7, you have learned that the Earth's axis is not perpendicular to the plane of its orbit. To understand this better, let's have first a simple activity. Activity 1. When the sun's rays strike. In this activity, you will find out the role of latitude in varying the climate of different places. The objective is, explain how latitude affects climate. Let's begin. Study the given illustration. Using the illustration given, answer the following questions. 1. How much is the tilt of the Earth's axis? 2. Which part of the Earth receives most of the sun's rays? 3. Why does the amount of heat received by places far from the equator become less? 4. Why are the coldest places on Earth found near the poles? 5. Why are places with high temperature found at the equator? And 6. How does latitude affect climate? Do you think the latitude of the place might affect the climate? How does latitude affect climate? Let's find out. The first factor that may affect the climate of an area is what we call the latitude. Latitude is defined as the distance north or south of the equator, and it is measured from 0 degree to 90 degrees. It is also an imaginary line that is parallel to the equator. Here are the 5 latitudinal sections of the Earth. The equator serves as a reference point and is set as 0 degree latitude. The area above the equator is referred to as the northern hemisphere, while the area below is known as the southern hemisphere. Latitudinal sections in the northern hemisphere are the Tropic of Cancer and the Arctic Circle. Capping the hemisphere is the North Pole. The latitudinal sections in the southern hemisphere are the Tropic of Capricorn and the Antarctic Circle. The South Pole is at the base of the southern hemisphere. Our planet Earth is divided into 3 major climatic zones, namely tropical, temperate, and polar zones. Tropical regions are the low latitude, wherein they are located near the equator. Temperate regions are the middle latitude, and polar zones are the high latitude. The Earth rotates around its axis at an angle of 23.5 degrees. As it orbits around the Sun, the northern hemisphere will point towards or away from the Sun on certain times of the year. Countries along the equator are directly exposed to the Sun. As such, they are the warmest and have a climate of wet or dry seasons. Trivia time! Did you know that there are countries lie on the equator? Here are the list of countries that lie on the equator. The Earth's axial tilt creates an imbalance in the amount and length of exposure of areas to the Sun, causing areas in the northern and southern hemispheres to experience different seasons. In June, it is summer in the northern hemisphere because it is directly exposed to the sun, and winter in the southern hemisphere, which is tilted away from the sun. At this time of the year, the North Pole also points toward the sun and experiences daylight for 24 hours, while it is dark all day long in the South Pole. In September, the Northern Hemisphere faces away from the sun and it starts experiencing autumn, while spring begins in the Southern Hemisphere. In the North Pole, it is dark all day from September to March, while in the South Pole, the sun is visible all the time. Let's revisit the activity you have done a while ago. How much is the tilt of the Earth's axis? 23.5 degrees. Which part of the Earth receives most of the sun's rays? Equator. Why does the amount of heat received by places far from the equator become less? It is due to the tilting of the Earth's axis and the shape of the Earth. Why are the coldest places on Earth found near the poles? Because they receive less amounts of heat. Why are places with high temperature found at the equator? Due to the tilting of the Earth's axis, places near the equator receive more heat, making the air temperature higher. How does latitude affect climate? When the air is farther from the equator, the air temperature is lower, resulting in a cold climate. When the place is closer to the equator, the air temperature is higher, which results in a warm climate. To sum it up, latitude affects the climate of a certain area. When the area is farther from the equator, the air temperature is lower, resulting in a cold climate, like in the polar regions. When the place is closer to the equator, the air temperature is higher, which results in a warm climate like in tropical regions. While areas in the temperate regions have 4 different seasons: winter, spring, summer, and fall. Remember this class. Places that are near the equator have high temperature, and places that are far from the equator have low temperature. In other words, as the latitude increases, the temperature decreases. Let's proceed now to the second factor affecting the climate of an area: the proximity to large bodies of water. Look at this picture. It shows the tip of the British Isles and the part of Russia near Moscow. Being in the temperate region, both places are on the same latitude and have 4 seasons. But how come the northern tip of the British Isles has a more moderate climate than the part of Russia near Moscow? It is because of the neighboring bodies of water of the tip of the British Isles. In fact, the British Isles experiences average maximum temperature of 17 degrees Celsius and an average minimum temperature of 0 degrees Celsius, while Moscow, on the other hand, has an average maximum temperature of 21 degrees Celsius and very cold winter with an average of -8 degrees Celsius. The climate of the place is influenced by the surrounding bodies of water. Teacher, I have questions. How does a body of water regulate the temperature of a certain region or country? And why do some areas that are far from bodies of water have extreme climates? To answer your questions, just watch and learn from the video. The soil absorbs heat faster than water. At the same time, the soil releases heat faster compared to water. During daytime, the air above the sea is colder than the air above the land. The warm air flows from land to sea. Thus, the rise of temperature on land would be moderated. At night, soil cools down faster than water, so the air temperature above ground is lower than that above the sea. Warm air then flows from sea to land, so the drop in air temperature above ground is moderated. After watching the video, let's answer your questions. How does a body of water regulate the temperature of a certain country or region? A body of water circulates the warm air and cold air. It absorbs more heat and slowly releases heat, making the change in temperature of a country moderate. And why do some areas that are far from bodies of water have extreme climates? Places that are far from the bodies of water have extreme climates, as there are no immediate bodies of water that will help to circulate the movement of cold and warm air. To sum it up, land heats and cools faster than the sea. Coastal areas have lower temperatures than inland areas. And places that are far from the bodies of water have extreme climates, for there are no immediate bodies of water that will help circulate the movement of cold and warm air. To wrap it up, we have the factors affecting the climate of an area, and this session we have featured the latitude and the proximity to large bodies of water.
Again, how does latitude affect climate? When the air is farther from the equator, the air temperature is lower, resulting in a cold climate. When the place is closer to the equator, the air temperature is higher, which results in a warm climate. And how does the proximity of bodies of water affect climate? Places that are far from the bodies of water have extreme climates because there is no immediate bodies of water that will moderate the change in temperature in the location. And why do we need to study the factors affecting the climate of an area? Specifically for this day, we have the factors, the latitude and the proximity of the bodies of water. For example, if you want to travel abroad and eventually will stay there for a long period of time, considering the latitude and proximity to large bodies of water of that place is very important. If you want to go to a place near the equator or far from the equator, or if the place you wanted to go is surrounded by large bodies of water, these factors can help you know the climate of that area. And because of this, you will be aware of how and what to dress. It will also help you to take precautionary measures if you have health-related conditions. Gardeners and farmers can plan for their crop protection or production, help people know what businesses can be put up in an area, and it can help in planning for certain activities. Are you ready now for your evaluation? Okay, very good. Using the link below or scanning the QR code, answer the following questions. For your assignment, explain how the last two factors affect the climate of an area. Number 1, topography, and number 2, ocean currents. For concerns, questions, clarifications, take note of my contact numbers and social media accounts. The different sources and references being used. A simple reminder, treat the earth as if your life depends upon it. Genesis 2 verse 15. Before I end this lesson, again, together, let's fight COVID-19. Let's mask, hugas, and iwas. Once again, This is Ma'am Leslie Santillan Landingin, always reminding you to love life and to love science. Thank you and God bless.